In regards to a friendship, however, we are still friends to the fullest. We are mature civilians over here, and we act accordingly, and we both are funny as fuck in our—
Am I the only one who's side-eyeing the Islanders? Because it seems like a lot of people are trying to rewrite history in the sense that they've realized that maybe they've not been presenting themselves the way that they wanted to present, and suddenly everyone is starting to sort of try and make amends. You have the likes of Ace. Suddenly he's very quiet. He's not the most vocal person in the villa. He's just sulking around the villa. I think it's because he's realized that nobody's buying his hot mess. And then Brian, I don't know how to take it. I really don't know how I feel about Brian trying to explore a connection with Amaya. Because when he spoke to her about, the challenges, or when he had the conversation with Amaya after the Stand Your Business, if he was really that into her, he could have told her that, you are someone I've been open to exploring a connection with, because we come from the same cultural background, we understand each other a lot better, and this is why I was fighting your battle when we had the Stand Your Ground. I would have bought that. For him to suddenly out of the blue say to Amaya, I like you for who you are, I'm not going to change you, I'm not going to do this. I think Amaya will only stay coupled with him in order for them to win. That's it. I don't know whether she'll couple up with him because there is a genuine connection. I'm sorry that her and Zach are completely gone, because at least with Zach, he was on Amaya right from Casa, whereas other people seem to suddenly be on the Amaya train because they've realized she's popular. And I think I like Iris and Pepe. I did suggest this, and so I'm happy that they're exploring it. Anyway, hey there, thanks for stopping by. It's your girl Valerie. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, click the like button, turn on the notification bell for when I upload new videos, and definitely leave a comment. In this episode, I'll be reviewing Love Island USA, Season 7, Episode 28. The villa is reeling because no one saw it coming. No one saw it coming that 5 people would be dumped in one go. So the idea that 5 people have been dumped and they've all just had to watch them go. There's 2 people. No, there's one couple. So there's 3 people who are now single as a result of the dumping, plus Olandria and Elon. So you have people are very upset. They're in their feelings. They're feeling some type of way because their partners are gone. Iris is inconsolable. She's inconsolable because she says that, her coupling with TJ made her enjoy her experience in the villa prior to him coming. She really struggled. Yes, she was with Jeremiah, but I don't think the struggle was with Jeremiah. I think the struggle was with the complications that came with being with Jeremiah, which are Huda. And so for her, she's sort of saying, I don't know whether I have it within me to start again. And I think partly she stayed because TJ insisted she stay. Well, if she felt like that, she should have gone, because in Casa, she didn't give anyone a chance. And she said she was waiting for TJ, even though they just started exploring a connection within a few days. So I don't know how long she's going to stay before she packs up and goes. Taylor and Clark are always very lovey-dovey. And Taylor is a totally different man when he's around Clark, because he said, it didn't feel great being in the bottom, and it was worse for him seeing Clark stand in the bottom, because at the end of the day, she was being punished for something that wasn't of her doing. It was his choice to pick Clark over Olandria, and yet Clark was sort of catching strays. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. I think people would have respected Taylor more had he been honest with Olandria and told her, I'm sorry, but there's nothing there. I'm open to exploring to see if we can grow something, but I just want you to know that there's nothing. Because he's constantly cuddling, he's constantly caressing, he's constantly kissing Clark. And Olandria seeing this, I hope this opens her eyes and allows her to realize that this man really wasn't her man. You have Ace and Shirley. Ace and Shirley were the ones who got a rude awakening in this game, in my opinion. Because at the end of the day, I feel like Ace thought since he came in with the largest fan base or largest followers on the show, it was going to be smooth sailing for him to get to the very end. So the idea that he was constantly at the bottom is something that is shocking, not only for him, but also for Shirley, because she is saying, I am genuine, so I don't understand why I wasn't marked as genuine. And it's like, maybe it's because, my love, you've been in love triangles the majority of your time in the villa. First, you had Charlie, Ace, and what's his name, Austin, chasing after you. Then Charlie had to step out when Hannah came in, and then Austin eventually stepped out, and you're left with with Ace until you went to Casa, and then Casa you explored. Yes, that's the purpose of the show. You're supposed to explore connections, but maybe that's why people don't feel you're being genuine. People feel maybe you should have made a choice of who you wanted, and I think this is why she's getting that. Iris is still very distraught. She has Amaya sort of consoling her and telling her that it's going to be okay. And so people are sort of picking up that Amaya is the sweetheart. She's the darling. And it's like, well, she's just been herself. What do you expect? You have the Casa boys. It's always the Casa boys on their own and the Villa boys on their own. The Casa boys are asking what's going to happen to Iris since TJ is gone. It seems she hasn't really been open. So they're asking, how long is she going to give it before she checks out? Because if I felt the way she felt about TJ, I would have gone home. This is what Chris was saying. And it's like, well, she's here on her own journey. She can't just pack up and leave because TJ is going home. Elon says he's open to exploring that. If Iris is open to exploring a connection, and it's like, okay, if that's what you say. In the changing room, you have Iris sort of walk into Olandria. Olandria is fuming. She says she's upset with, Sierra for standing behind Taylor. And it's like, did you girls reach that understanding, or was it an assumption that everybody was going to back you? Which is it? Because if these people had prior relationships with Taylor, it's like having parents that divorce and you're now having to choose sides. And so for Olandri to complain to Iris and then have Sierra walk in and say, I'm so sorry I stood behind Taylor, but I felt Nick would be devastated if I didn't stand behind him, and Taylor went home. The same thing happened when Nick went home. Taylor was devastated. Taylor was inconsolable. So I get where she's coming from. And I think in my review, this is what I had said. All the islanders get ready for bed. And then everyone goes to sleep. And as soon as the lights turn out and they start putting the names, initially you had Pepe Soto say to Iris, you can jump into my bed. And then you see them speaking when the lights go out. I remember Iris and Pepe came in together, and I don't know whether that's where their friendship stems from or whether there's actually a romantic connection there. In the morning, the islanders wake up, the girls go to get ready, and the boys make breakfast. Pepe was making crepes for everyone. It seems he's the one who always makes the pancakes, as the girls said during the challenge. So once breakfast is served, everybody takes their place and off they go. You have Sierra having a conversation with Amaya, and then you have Iris go for a chat with Pepe. They were chatting the night before, and I think because they came in together, it's easier for them to sort of talk and sort of comfort each other. So you see them sit down and have their breakfast, and Iris is saying to Pepe, how did you cope after Hannah left? Because this is where I am. I know I wasn't with TJ for that long, but the number of days that I was with him brought us very close. So I'm not sure how I'll be able to adjust now that he's gone. And so it was cute that she had someone at least who could walk her through it. Not someone who's coming to her saying, I want a connection, but someone who's experienced what she's experiencing and is able to sort of help her navigate that and see if she can, or if she has it within her to sort of explore a new connection. I said it before, once the sort of, it was obvious that people were being dumped. I think it was in my previous review. I said it before that I feel like Pepe and Iris could actually be a very good couple. I think the reason they didn't explore it was because they came in together, so it felt like brother and sister, and maybe this is why they didn't want to go down that path. But I think at this point they're open to learning, open to growing, and open to sort of exploring to see if there's anything romantic there. The reinvention of Huda is amazing because she has a conversation with Chris. Chris is really struggling because he says, he dreamt about basketball, and normally when he dreams about basketball, he starts to worry because of the fact that 9 months of the year he's playing overseas, and so he doesn't get to come home to see family. And it seems like he is trying to reinvent himself, and this is why he's thinking of, probably starting something outside of basketball. I love that for once I actually saw Huda care about someone. I love that I actually saw her be supportive of somebody else outside of herself, because normally it's all about her. She wants this, she wants that. So for her to sit and sort of give him analogy to try and explain to him that, don't worry, something else will come up. There's no way nothing will come up. Something will come up. And I think with the way he's carried himself and the way he's navigated in the villa, this could be a positive thing for him. So hopefully it helps. He said he wanted to cry. Huda was encouraging him, if you want to cry, cry. And she held him for a bit. I don't know whether he was crying or whatever happened there, but it was actually nice to see her in a different light. And Chris was saying that, Huda, I'm happy that people get to see her the way I see her, because she's got other sides outside of what people have seen before, which is, yeah, some people bring out the negative in you, some people bring out the good. So I get it. You have Nick, he's exercising with Brian, and they're sort of talking about the fact that, well, Nick asked him that we were all surprised that you stood behind Jaden. What happened there? We thought you were going to stand behind your partner. And he said that, with Andrina it was done, and he really liked Jaden, so was open to exploring a connection. I said it before, the moment she approached him and said, let's explore connections with other people, is the moment he checked out. He says it was only... it was a physical attraction, apparently, which didn't have substance, which seems to have been their problem. And so he was ready to move on. They then talk about Amaya, and he says, I spoke to Amaya yesterday, and I don't know, because he was asked, so what are you going to do? Who are you going to explore? He said, I spoke to Amaya yesterday, and I'm actually thinking of maybe having a conversation with her to see if there's something there, just because we were talking about our cultural background. And it would be nice for her to date someone from a cultural background. But at the moment, I am side-eyeing Brian, because it's like, were you really interested, or are you really interested in Amaya because there's a romantic spark there, or are you interested in Amaya because you've seen that she's popular? Which is it? Make it make sense, because I don't understand why suddenly, you are there and you're saying you're interested in Amaya. Hopefully he has the best of intentions, but we can only assume that he has the best of intentions. Another conversation that I found surprising was Amaya and Clark. I think Clark is struggling because it seems, I don't think there's any other Casa girls. I think she's the only Casa girl that was left. Yeah, they only brought 5, isn't it? Yeah, they brought 5. So 3 went, and she's the only Casa girl left. So she sat down for a conversation with Amaya, and Amaya was just checking in with her. And it makes sense. Amaya is an HCP, so she's used to talking to anyone and everyone. So she was sort of telling her, don't take this to heart. This has nothing to do with you. You were just, a victim, and you just caught strays. This, you being in the bottom, wasn't fair. And at the end of the day, it wasn't your fault that Taylor picked you. And with Clark, I have to give her this. She has been very calm, irregardless of what was going on, be it the arguing, be it whether she agreed or disagreed with something. She has tried to carry herself in a certain way, and she hasn't said anything derogatory about, Olandria, which might tarnish Olandria's image. So I get where she's coming from, and it was nice to see her actually be consoled by Amaya and actually feel comfortable to speak her mind and not worry, because the problem is all the other girls are Olandria's friends, so it would have been a bit oaks galore. Outside of Iris, it would have been oaks galore for her to speak to anyone. You then have Shirley, because Shirley had said she was going to make Ace breakfast. So Shirley makes Ace breakfast. She brings it. Well, I think Taylor brought him to the dock. He went to the dock, and he's feeling very deflated, or he's presenting himself as very deflated, because his idea of how he was moving in the villa and the viewer's perception of him are totally different things that he didn't expect. And so realizing that the viewers might actually not be on my side, it was a rude awakening for him. And I'm happy they didn't get people to read their messages, because that would have just knocked him for 6. So Shirley's saying, this is her way of showing him that she cares, and she's done with exploring connections. And it's like, I don't think she's done with exploring connections. She's done with exploring connections in the villa at the moment because there's no one else for her. It seems Chris is going guns blazing for Huda, and because of their clash during the game, I don't think she would have the capacity to explore anything with Chris, and I don't think he would have the capacity to explore anything with her because we haven't seen them talk at all. We haven't seen anything else outside of them just keeping to their corners and just minding the business with whoever they're in a couple with. The Islanders then receive a text message. It says, Islanders, get ready to lose control in today's challenge, crashing out. Huda then starts joking that, oh, should I bring out, Hurricane Huda or should I whatever? And it's like, it's cute, but okay, we'll see. The game was called Crash Out. And you know me, I love this game. Why? Because I love any game that doesn't involve 3, 4, 5, 10 people swapping saliva. So that was good. What would happen is there were 2 doors, and so they would get to pick someone who was their partner in crime. They would crash through the doors, and then they would have to sort of jump over, fall into a ball pit, and then get up, jump over some sort of bottle. I don't know what you call them. The boulders that are set in the middle of this. Well, it was inflatable, and then the other islanders would be sliming them, obviously to make it slippery so that you fall, and then they would take a pie to the face to talk about the time they crashed out. And then after that, they would then choose a partner to go into the ball pit with, and they would make out with that person. And so it seemed the guys were the only ones who were sort of participating. They got to choose the girl they wanted to kiss, or a girl they wanted to run through the door, or a guy. But it was just the guys that mainly did the challenge, which makes sense because it looked like it was really hard, especially if you couldn't crash the door. Most people were falling backwards. Anyway, first up was Nick. Nick chose Olandria. And they're very close friends, it seems. And he said he crashed out when he left the villa. And then he chose to kiss Sierra. That's not a surprise. Taylor chose Ace as his wingman. And he said he crashed out when he had to twerk in front of Meg the Stallion. He kissed Clark. Ace chose Olandria to run through the door with because he said he wanted her to get more action. And he said he crashed out when Nick left the villa. And it's like, nah. The person that crashed out was Taylor. Ace, we really didn't say it. He chose to kiss Shirley, who is his partner. Zach chose Amaya as his partner in crime. He said regardless of the ups and downs of their relationship, he would never choose anyone outside of Amaya. And then he said he crashed out when Austin left the villa. And he chose Olandria to kiss. And Olandria knew that this was a tactic on his part because she's been refusing to kiss him. And he knew that in a challenge she wouldn't be able to say no. She said she loved the kiss, which was good. Next up was Chris. Chris chose Brian. He said, he's my partner in crime. I can confide anything in him. And then he said he crashed out when he heard that the beds weren't big enough because he's quite a big guy. He chose to kiss Huda. Huda is his partner, so it makes sense. Huda was ecstatic. Then we had Pepe. Pepe chose Taylor. I didn't realize that they were the closest of friends, but he said Taylor's been cool with him since the day he walked into the villa, and this is why he chose Taylor. He said he crashes out every time somebody leaves the villa. I think a lot of people crash out when people leave the villa because you never know whether you're going to see them outside of the reunion or this is the end of the road. So that made sense. Next up was Elon. He chose Sierra because he said Sierra knows me more than everybody else in the villa because of the time that we spent together while we were exploring our connection. He then said he crashed out when he realized that Nick was still in the villa because he was excited when he came back and he realized that Nick had gone or had been dumped. But then when he saw him come back, he realized that, and the way Sierra behaved, so it makes sense. Brian chose Huda because he said we get each other's humor from the day that I walked in. And he said, I never crash out. And so he chose to kiss Amaya. Makes sense because he's already told Nick that he wants to explore with Amaya. The girls then got to pick who was the winner. I think it was done out of sympathy because it's been, very miserable for the past couple of days. So I think this is why they chose to go with Ace because I don't think Ace was the winner of that. I don't think he had as much an impact, but I think the girls felt sorry for him because his ego was bruised by not being popular with the fans. And so this is why maybe they gave him an opportunity to win this particular challenge. So the islanders come back obviously from the game, and there is conversations taking place. Well, they have a debriefing immediately after, and the girls are sort of questioning, Iris, that how did it feel kissing Pepe? Would you be open to sort of exploring that with Pepe? And she says, this is something that I hadn't even considered because I always saw him as my brother. And I think Pepe saw her in the same light because they walked in together on the night that they came in for, and there was that kissing challenge. So I think it's them having to sort of see each other in a different light. And so hopefully that works out for them. You had everybody else sort of asking. Amaya spoke about her connection with Brian. Brian spoke to the guys about his connection with Amaya, saying, he's always wanted to explore that. And so this was his opportunity to do that. And it's like, wait, if that works for you, amazing. Maya then goes for a chat with Zach. I feel it was important for them to have this conversation because the last time she spoke to or at Zach, they were screaming at each other across the courtyard. And Zach was able to sort of explain himself, to say, I'm sorry for what I said. I was just, going off what everybody else was saying, and I just felt, since we're discussing it, let me put my 2 pence in. I didn't realize how it would impact you, because at the end of the day, as your partner, I should have apologized to you, or I should have stood beside you and supported you, which makes sense. That's what she needed at the time. She needed someone to stand up for her. She needed someone to hold her up while people were trying to break her. And at that moment, it seemed like, on his part, Zach was sort of piling on to people that were trying to break her. So I get why she was upset with him. They agreed to make up, and they said, even if we're not romantic, we'll always be friends because this is my rider. And they really do seem to get along very well. I think the thing with Zach and Amaya, I think they need to sort of understand each other's cultural differences and get to know each other deeper, and they could actually be a very good couple, because Zach comes across as an understanding guy and a caring person, because I remember when they started communicating. So that would be sweet. That really would be sweet. In the challenge, obviously, Amaya had questioned him suddenly kissing her when he had said the kissing bothered him. So that was interesting to see. And then you had Nick and Sierra go to Salt Highs. They were talking about, closing off, and what does that mean for them? And it's like, why are we needing to clarify this? When you asked her to close off, what did you think that meant? Did you think it meant girlfriend boyfriend? Did you think that it meant you were just going to try and see if you could progress and then decide whether to be boyfriend and girlfriend? What did it mean? I didn't quite understand that bit. They both seem happy. They both seem to really care about one another. So it will be a matter of wait and see to see what happens with Sierra and Nick, because I don't know. Apparently there's this scandal with Sierra. I haven't come across it, and I haven't bothered to look it up because I don't want to bias my opinion of her. I will, if I come across it, amazing. And then I'll find out exactly what's going on. Shirley and Chris then went up to the terrace to have a conversation, because Shirley has already closed things off with Ace. And so, she's told him she doesn't want to explore with anybody else. So it makes sense that, they sat down. I think there were a lot of assumptions on both parts. And I think Shirley wasn't sure whether she really wanted Chris. This is why the production must have engineered him to couple up with Huda. And so it was important for them to sit down. I wish they had sat down earlier, because Ace, personally, I don't think is the guy for Shirley. I might see something totally different to her. I think he's very immature. I think he, not just because of the age, but I think he has a lot of growing to do. And so he has a lot of emotional intelligence and experience to gain before he can be the guy that Shirley needs. And at this point in time, yes, in the villa, he might be ideal, but in the real world, I don't think he would be the partner for her. So hopefully, she works on it. Chris on his part says, I'm happy to focus on Huda, and she agrees to focus on Ace. I think there was this, what should have been, had we spoken earlier, is what really happened. And he said, I appreciate you because you're a very good person. Because at the end of the day, she liked him, but she was willing to, forgo him for somebody else. This is more or less what happened, whereby she had to take a step back so that Huda could get what she wanted. And that's what she did. Whether or not she had a stronger connection with him, we will never know until they leave the villa. Iris and Pepe then went to the dock. Iris and Pepe, for me, I think they make a cute couple. I think they're two people that are very laid back. I think Iris wants someone who's very laid back and relaxed, and this is why she worked very well, or she was able to help Jeremiah sort of de-escalate and calm down from his whatever hurricane that he was riding with Huda. So they were just talking about the fact that, you know, they never considered each other as romantic partners, and they are open to exploring it to see if there's anything there. I've said it in previous seasons where I've said I wonder why bombshells that come in together can't explore one another, and hopefully this becomes something new whereby people are open to exploring connections with their fellow bombshells once they've gone through the initial sort of picking who you want. Amaya went to soul ties with Brian. I'm still side-eyeing Brian because I personally want to know, is he going after Amaya because he really likes her, or is he going after Amaya because he wants an opportunity to stay in the villa and he knows she's very popular and she's going to keep him there just because he's like a brother figure, so she wants to keep him there. But I don't think he's a brother figure with the way they were kissing and the way he was holding her bums. I think that was a bit too much. I wish Amaya would take a moment and get to know someone on a personal and deeper level first before physical intimacy. I don't know whether it's because a physical touch is her love language or what exactly causes her to want to jump to that bed, because I wish she would take a step back, because this has been a gripe for most of the guys she's coupled up with. But sadly, we are here and hopefully it works out for her. Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe, and click the link in my video to watch my review from episode 27. Bye guys.